The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
Hi, welcome to the Kickoff. Yeah, we're actually doing one of these right now. And no is going to have nothing. Okay, it's going to have something to do about football a little bit later on because we kind of have to. This is a football podcast. But we're being too socially distant from each other, gentlemen. And frankly, that needed to end.
Yeah.
Good evening.
Remember those times?
I interrupted Erik's bit. I'm sorry, Erik. Go ahead.
Remember those times when we could just all sit around and bullshit on a podcast talking about different news and events in the sporting world and not have to worry about any kind of global catastrophe? Peppered Farm remembers.
You know what I don't remember? I don't remember sports at all.
It feels like a distant memory.
I don't know what you're talking about. I've really found the play of Dynamo Minsk in the Belarusian soccer league very entertaining.
Erik with the deep.
I found out late at night marble racing on ESPN is very enthralling.
Hey, you want to talk about the best programming? You want to talk about the best programming on the Ocho? European Tram Driver Championships, baby.
See, I'm all about the cornhole. So there's a joke there, Erik. Don't make it. Thanks for listening.
I almost beat him to it.
Thank you for listening, everybody, and welcome into the Kickoff. This is a special episode, obviously. We will return to your normally scheduled programming-ish.
Well, ish.
Next week, we'll bring you... I added an ish. You slow your roll, Bisco.
Fine.
When we bring you our draft preview episode. Tonight, we're actually just kind of getting together to shoot the shit about the current events here, to talk about a little bit of off-season NFL news as well. We'll kind of put that in towards the end of the broadcast. But for the sake of this particular show, this is more of us venting our frustrations and talking things out about our experiences here. Obviously, first of all, let me tell you guys who we all are because it's important to do that. I'm your host. My name is Harry Broadhurst. Joining me, as per usual, the executive producer turned co-host, Erik Watkins.
It would take something on the scale of a pandemic to turn me into a sane, normal, fully responsible member of society. Yeah, fuck you, coronavirus.
I don't know if he's necessarily sane, but at least he's productive. So he's got that going. The co-host turned executive producer, Brandon Biskobing.
Yeah, this is a strange world we've just gotten ourselves planted into.
And the chairman of this particular multiverse, Jason Teasley.
Carol Baskins killed her fucking husband.
Oh, don't even get started with that BS.
Hey. I voted that man to be president in 2016. Thank you very much. And if I lived in Oklahoma, I would have voted for him to be governor too. Damn bitch, Carol Baskin.
Hey, just only thing I'm going to say, Brandon, is you just need to watch out for having sardine oil rubbed on you.
Am I really the only one that hasn't watched that show?
No, that's why I said that, is because I haven't watched it either, and I have no intention of watching it.
No.
Oh, no, you need to watch it. You need to just watch it simply because it is the utter shit show of just what the fuck.
Women in cat suits.
As he and Erik were discussing before the show went on the air earlier, I'm actually planning on binge watching McMillions tomorrow on Hulu.
The one monumental case that goes down in history, and it happens to convalesce right during the time I'm not in Florida.
But anyway, so yeah, we're getting together here to give you kind of our thoughts on, obviously, the vast majority of the sports world is shut down right now. We are going to have an NFL draft to talk about, thankfully, and then there will be an actual NFL draft to discuss in 2 weeks as well, once the virtual draft, which is weird to say, but an actual thing that's happening, happens from the 23rd through the 25th. That being said, the next time we were supposed to come to you after we did our year-end awards show for the Kickoff was supposed to be the tip-off, March Madness edition. Yeah, well, about that.
Boy, I dodged a bullet for that one. I would have been so mad those couple of weeks.
I'm so pissed off that Kansas didn't have a chance to win the title it so rightfully deserved.
Same here. Same here, Harry Witsy and Hall.
You
Same
guys
here.
have been knocked out in the second round like you are every
Hey,
year.
we would have been a 3 seed this year and probably would have made at least a deep run.
No.
Hey, I'm the one of all of us that actually put money on Kansas to win the title. How do you think I feel? Hashtag bet on Bovada.
Hashtag refunded, I'm assuming.
I was, but still not the same. But
Three of the four of us would have had dogs in the NCAA tournament fight there. My Jayhawks, Brandon's Pirates, and Jason's Mountaineers.
Hurricanes got to get their shit together.
I was so thankful. If we could only, thankfully, we didn't even have to go through an entire season with another ton of injuries. It would be nice if we could, field more than 7 or 8 players for a game every once in a while.
If you'd like, Eric, I can dub you an honorary Gators fan for the tournament.
Yeah, like that's going to happen.
No? Okay. Well, it's not like you...
Speaking of which, it has been confirmed. I will be at least 2 Gator games coming because my wife's best friend and her new husband, her new boyfriend, is a huge college football fan, and where they live in Gainesville and she works for the hospital, they get free tickets, and he does not have anybody to go to games with. And my wife said, I cannot go to games because it gives her a chance to go to Florida and see her best friend. I said, that sounds good to me.
Okay, my only rule for this is that I get some kind of Gator swag out of this when you go to the stadium.
The one good thing that UF Health provides.
Well, me and him was talking, and also he told me that he's already got a boat down there at one of his friend's house, and anytime I come down, that we're going to he's going to take me on my first deep sea fishing adventure.
Oh God, I'm
on a boat, man. It's going fast.
Feeling that there's going to be a Florida man story out of this.
I don't know, but it'll be wonderful if there is.
See, I went the opposite way with that, Eric. He's on a boat, man. He's going fast, man. He's got a nautical theme, Pashmina Afghan. To the 4 people listening that probably got that song reference, thank you.
Hey, now, just remember, even with that, we will all admit, Dick in a Box was better.
Oh, you shut your whore mouth. It was not.
I have to agree with Eric.
Thank you.
Brandon, I'm on a boat or Dick in a Box. Which one's better?
I'm on a boat.
Thank you. Okay. See, this is twice now in 2 episodes that me and Bisco have ended up on the same side of an argument. That's disturbing. All right. Anyway.
Okay. All I'm going to say is, if you're picking teams, and it's me and Eric versus you and Bisco, pretty sure me and Eric's got to win. Hashtag Black Irish.
Yeah, how's that Black Irish coming along, Jason?
About better than the fantasy football cast.
I knew that was coming.
I mean, in fairness, both of them came along further than how the war was won, so, whatever.
I mean, I'm starting to think it's me.
All right, so seriously though, let's get kind of a little bit back on track here. Not that this,
What's that?
yeah,
Yeah.
not that this show ever really had one. Erik, out of all the things that have been canceled right now, what's the one sporting event you miss most?
Australian rules football. Granted, it does mean sometimes that I do have to stay up until 2 a.m, but oh dear Lord, just the high-flying Mason Cox, Pat McAfee's even on board talking about it. Not to mention, this was finally going to be the year the Dogs were going to get back into the 8 and make a deep finals run. But now, question marks.
Okay, A, you leave your love for Cox out of this.
Hey, he can talk about his love for Cox all he wants.
Okay, fine. You can talk about your love for Cox. Jason, what's the one sporting event that we've lost so far that you've missed the most?
I have to say March Madness. I mean, it's behind opening day of the NFL. It is my favorite event of every year.
I'm right there with Jason. That's an honorable mention for me because that opening Thursday of the March Madness tournament is the one day a year where I sit my ass in front of a television and do not move from noon until after midnight when the last game is concluded. I watch as much of day one as I can every year to have it taken away as quickly.
What really sucks about it is I had tickets to the first 2 rounds in Cleveland.
Ouch.
Brandon, what's the one sporting event you've missed most in the downtime?
Yeah, I definitely have to say March Madness because not only is it the biggest thing that has been canceled, I mean, I'm sure some people may argue a couple of other events, but, you know, that especially to me and many other sports fans, that was the biggest event in this time frame that was canceled, and with it being as close to being finalized, and you were right there, you could feel it coming, and then it just gets destroyed like that. That's definitely the biggest. But I'm going to give 2 honorable mentions. One.
Hold on, before you give your... Nope, before you do, because I'm worried you're going to take my pick, because Bisco going to Bisco.
I have a feeling I'm going to as well, so go ahead.
Thank you. You know what I actually missed out the most on this from the sports season?
Opening day?
Getting to see what would have happened with the XFL.
Oh, okay.
Ditto.
So I wouldn't have taken your...
Because we were so actively involved with the XFL on this podcast, like we were in on the XFL, and the level of play was much better than any of us anticipated it being, and the coverage was much better than any of us anticipated it being, and the gimmickry that was the original XFL wasn't there. They actually took it serious as a legitimate professional sports business this time, and we were there for it, and it was something that you could sit and watch. And yeah, you didn't have to watch the entire game, sure, but if you found yourself flipping the TV and you found an XFL game on, odds are you were staying there to watch the XFL game until you either had to go do something else or until there was something specific that you wanted to watch, because the quality of play warranted you spending your time watching that there. And to see that taken away 5 weeks into the season, they didn't even reach what the AAF reached. The AAF got 6 weeks in before their season was shut down. To see the XFL taken away from 5 weeks through no fault of Vince McMahon, through no fault of Andrew Luck's dad.
Oliver
Luck. Through no fault of any of the franchises or any of the franchisees or any of the coaches or anything like that, was devastating as a football fan, because it was starting to see signs that a non-national football league, for lack of a better phrase, could work in the United States in the downtime from the NFL.
Now, I hope above all, when Vince is saying that we'll be back in 2021, that he means it and that they can get it going. Please. Because,
I have a feeling they will. I think Vince has put way too much money into it, and as we've seen with WWE, you know, if if he had the choice, if it was completely up to him, he probably would have gone ahead and done empty arena or empty stadium games.
See, I would say that he's going to come back, but look at the amount of players that he's already lost from the
That's
XFL
true.
to the NFL in
But-
this downtime too.
But think about it this way, and I'm sure we'll talk about this more later today and next week. With how the NFL is going to be this year, you may have a big pool of players who aren't on NFL rosters that may potentially sign with an XFL team because of the uncertainty of the draft.
And especially with everything going on and the noise still going with the CBA, I'm not saying that it will be thrown into an uproar, but there's a couple extra clouds on the horizon.
All right, basically, you had honorable mentions. Go ahead and hit those.
Yeah, my 2 honorable mentions. The first one is opening day for baseball. That's something that...
See, I would say that that's been more delayed than denied.
True, but still it's going to feel...
Different?
Yes. Yeah, it's not going to feel like opening day as basically like a holiday pretty much for baseball fans. It's going to feel more of as a relief, and even then, with no fans, it's not going to feel the same.
I'm actually going to make...
I only have one word for you in that respect.
Okay.
Brockmire.
All I'm going to say is the Marlins has been playing in front of no fans forever.
So have the Rays. I'm used to this.
Fair enough.
Real quick here. Do you guys think we'll see a shrunken baseball season?
Yes.
If so, okay, Eric, since you were the first to answer, I'm saying under 120.
Under.
If they can get everything done right with their plans for Arizona, I would say slightly over.
Yeah, actually, yeah. If they were able to start on May 1st, then it would be slightly over. But I don't think they're going to be able to start May 1st. I think at the very earliest it would be like Memorial Day.
Yeah, if they get everything set up in Arizona, if they have to wait to where, all of the stadiums all around the country, then it's definitely going to be under.
Yeah. I'm calling it right now, especially after, and I don't know if you guys saw it come out today. One of the biggest sporting companies that was trying to push ahead as much as they could, even they couldn't overcome the public pressure to shut down.
You're referring to the UFC,
yes,
with Dana White being shut down by the big mouse.
Exactly. So even
White Island can go right in the dick, Dana.
Even if the MLB, even if Rob Manfred comes up with a brilliant idea that has no holes in it, I have a feeling that in the climate that we have right now, until we start getting over the hump, people are going to be saying, and more specifically politicians and groups are going to be saying, it's too soon, you can't do it right now yet.
Well, even then, a poll just came out to where you had, I think 76% of those surveyed said they would watch games with no fans in attendance. Mm-hmm. Just watch those games basically behind closed doors. Only 12% said that they would attend games if social distancing were in place. And I believe it was 66% that said they are staying away until a vaccine comes out.
Yeah,
if they're waiting that long, a few sports are in trouble.
Yeah, well, that means that pretty much the entirety of the 2021 seasons are in jeopardy. And then my second honorable mention on a more personal level, and I love what Scott Van Pelt has been doing on ESPN. I love what various groups have been doing to help out with this. But college, and even more so on the high school level, losing this season, this spring sports season, is absolutely devastating to the seniors. I got to go a grand total of one baseball game this season before we got shut down, and it's very disappointing for those seniors to lose that opportunity.
I'm going to be nice to the NCAA at this particular part of the show. Know that will not be a theme for the rest of the episode. Dun, dun, dun.
Dramatic reverb.
I will say that the NCAA's decision to grant an extra year of eligibility to spring sport athletes is absolutely the correct one for the NCAA to make.
Absolutely.
And the NCAA has gone on the record and stated that they will help the schools with the scholarship donations that are needed in order to cover the students that are under spring athletic scholarships.
Tell that to everybody but Wisconsin, because I just saw across the wire earlier today to where the NCAA still left it with some leverage to the individual schools, and Wisconsin pretty much said no.
Wow.
Well, what a bunch of dicks.
I mean,
Exactly.
To be fair to Wisconsin, I mean, I completely disagree with it. But, the big... They don't have the big cash crop spring sport.
Bullshit.
My ass ain't going to be fair to Wisconsin.
Okay.
Fuck Wisconsin.
No.
Fucking cheese-eating motherfuckers.
Okay, first of all, Wisconsin's in the Big Ten, and yeah, maybe they lost the revenue of.
No. I'm not saying in total.
Let me finish.
Okay.
Let me finish. The Wisconsin's in the Big Ten, which means they may have lost the revenue. They're part of the revenue share from the NCAA tournament, but those motherfuckers in the Big Ten are making major money from the TV contract that they have with CBS, major money with the TV contract that they have through ESPN, major money through the TV contracts that they have through a number of other different organizations in order to broadcast their games, be it through the Big Ten Network, digitally, online, or in any one of a number of other options that they facilitate for their schools. So you cannot sit here and tell me that Wisconsin could not afford to take the costs, especially if the NCAA is supplementing them to help give those students an extra year of athletic eligibility.
Oh no, I'm not saying that they can't afford it. What I'm saying is, and I do not agree with this, but I think their thought is, when you think spring sports, what is the one sport that pops into mind? Baseball. They do not have a baseball team.
Lacrosse?
Swimming.
No, it's baseball, and they do not have a baseball team. So,
softball.
I could give a fuck less if they have a baseball team or not. It's unfair to the athletes that have dedicated their time to go to the University of Wisconsin. And I guarantee you what's going to end up happening is those bucky-teeth bastards are going to try to block transfers to go to other schools for a final year of eligibility.
Oh, no, yet I'm the one that always catches shit when I say the whole state should just be lactose intolerant. Yeah, thank you again for proving me right. Bad enough that you had to go through and pull all that bullshit with the election.
All right, let's go ahead and continue on here. A couple of other things, because we are not doing politics on this show, Eric.
Okay, but I do want to ask you one question, Harry. You in particular.
Oh, I feel special. Go ahead.
Do you feel kind of cursed?
I mean, Ohio is generally fucked, but how so?
Liverpool.
We're still going to get the title. So, I mean, I'm not that upset about it. Granted, I would have preferred, given the fact that we only needed 2 more wins to clinch it, I would have preferred to have done it on the pitch. But the commissioner for the EPL has came out and stated that if the season were to be forced to shut down, Liverpool would be awarded the title because realistically there was no logical chance of any other team catching Liverpool for the 2019-2020 crown.
Asterisk.
Why you gotta be a dick? That's not cool.
It's because
he's a Bills fan. I mean, let him enjoy some. He is a Bills fan. Come on.
Oh, we have plenty to be excited about in Buffalo this year. We'll talk about the actual NFL news and notes a little bit later on in the show.
If
Jason,
we ever get there.
let's get personal, shall we?
All right, I'm not touching you like you like anymore. That was weird.
They don't need to know
Made it
about
weird.
that. Shut the fuck up, Jason.
Look,
Anyway.
calm down. I got it from the right angles. I got you, bro.
All right.
I do need a boom mic, however, because reasons.
In all sincerity, you've been moved to work from home here. How has this whole thing been affecting you on a personal day-to-day level? Like, this isn't us like being funny for the sake of being funny here. I'm genuinely curious how you guys are all holding up through everything that's going on. Jason, I'll start with you.
Well, I mean, working from home has its advantages and disadvantages. I like having the small disconnect, being able to drive home and having that disconnect from work rather than walking out of my office. And, the fact that Amber bought a $500 desk and office chair, I mean, and that was her excuse, was because she works from home. She's also working from home. So it's kind of put a strain on us both having to work from home and sharing the same office for the most part. So, I mean, it kind of sucks. The biggest thing that sucks is the fact that, I got to deal with my daughter on a regular basis. And and the fact that, it's not like that. I'm just saying I've got to deal with her and trying to teach her where she does have an LD and, not being really versed in the proper needs that she does need and require to help her understand some things because of her LD. And it creates a thing and puts her at a disadvantage because I feel that I'm not teaching her. Me and Amber both have to have, we're still working 40 hours a week each. Plus, on top of that, we're trying to keep her up to schoolwork. So, I mean, it's made life a lot more hectic in a personal level, trying to juggle work and be a teacher for the biggest part of my days off. And any free time that we have, we're having to, take that role on as a teacher and further her education the best way we know how. And we're not really equipped because of her special learnings and the way that she needs to be taught. We don't have access to that, and we're not really versed in that. So it becomes really frustrating, and it's caused a lot of friction between me and my daughter because I'm used to how I learn things, but that's not how she can learn things. So
in addition,
go ahead.
I'm sorry, but kind of along that line of thinking there, you mentioned you're used to having the disconnect at the drive home from work and everything here. Do you think that, and I'm not saying this to sound like it's when guys are going to watch sports, they're trying to do it to get away from their families. But I think that there is a part of the opportunity to check out a sporting event that allows you to kind of sit back and relax, especially when you have a family life, that allows you to unwind from the world around you for a little bit and just lose your mind and let your mind just sit at peace when you're watching a game or when you're watching like the basketball tournament, if it were to have happened, or if you were watching a baseball game. Do you find that you're maybe a little bit more on edge because you don't have the same level of release from the stress that you're under because of the lack of ability to watch shows and stuff that you would traditionally partake in around this time of the year?
Well, I mean, it was said jokingly today, but I think there was a lot of truth to it when I told her when I told Amber we're recording tonight, and she said, "Thank God that you have an outlet now." And she's like, "You need to start doing it. You guys need to start recording more." She said, "Because sometimes you are absolutely unbearable to deal with." And I did, and we were just joking around about it. And then I kind of thought, and this is going to sound funny because, like I said, I do work from home. So, typically I get off at midnight. I got held up, and I seen where you guys made the initial call. My anxiety went through the roof, knowing that I was still stuck at work and to get on here. And because I know that it was holding you guys up, and there was a lot of anxiety and a lot of just like on edge nervous energy that produced. But as soon as I got on the call, it went away. I was able, everything kind of slowed down in my mind and everything. And that's something that, like I said, my disconnect from work, I mean, it's a 10-minute drive home. In that 10 minutes, whether I consciously think about it or not, is when I get in my Jeep at work, I leave work at work.
Mm-hmm.
When I walk into my house, I'm in my home life. Here, there's no disconnect. It's, it's caused issues because, if I'm working, I'm taking calls and the dogs bark or something, or it's an anxiety for me, and it creates anxiety for Amber, and it puts us both on high alert, like a nervous energy. So that's some of the biggest things that have me, is because I do have a lot more. I thought I would have a lot less stress, but I don't, and it's it's tough. I mean, because okay, I'll say this and I'll wrap it up. It's like when I was an EMT. I'm sure I've told you guys this, but I bought a small, just a small outdoor plastic tree because I couldn't get one to live, that I put beside my door when I became an EMT and I lived in my townhouse. And it was the best advice I've got from old grizzled medic named Danny May. He said, because he's seen anxiety building up for me and me carrying stuff for weeks on end, and then me and him worked a Saturday together. He said, I'm going to give you advice that was given to me. He said, do you have any plants on the outside of your house? I said, no. He said, go get he said, if it's a real tree, a plastic tree, a potted plant, something, put it beside your door or put it beside your steps before you walk into your apartment. And every day when you get out of your car, touch that for 5 seconds, walk in your house. Leave everything that you have with work at that tree every day. And when you leave for work, you pick it up on your way out. He said, your life will change. And that was some of the best advice I had, because it created a disconnect. Working from home, I don't have that disconnect. My anxiety that I have on a call, I carry to, it might be something. I could be stressed out over a call and I go on lunch or break, and Kinsey could just make a minor mistake and it's a heightened reaction for me. Or me and Amber could be joking around and she say something in a joking manner and it's a heightened reaction from me. There's no disconnect. Yeah, do I love spending time with my family more because I'm home? Yes. But there needs to be a disconnect. And I'm pretty sure that if anybody's listening to this and, they might be able to relate, who knows? I don't know. But if it does, the best advice I can give you is to find something that you can leave your work with and pick it up before you clock in the next day.
All right, so I'm gonna go next here, and I was actually going to go last, but what Jason said tied into what I was going to say here, so I'm gonna go ahead and go next here. I've made no secret about it on this show. I've made no secret about it on the other podcasts that I've done for the W2M Network. I've made no secret about it on the reaction that I do over for the Chairshot Radio Network. I suffer from really, really bad anxiety. I suffer from really, really bad depression. I've had it for years. It goes back to when I was 11 years old, when my 9-year-old sister passed away in front of me. I do not do well when things are disorganized and things are chaotic. I do not do well when I'm told that I have to do something that I don't want to do. sitting inside of this apartment, having to be, because I live in a studio apartment. I'm pretty sure I've told you guys that before. I live inside of a space that is probably no bigger than most people's master bedrooms. But it's just me here, so that's usually not a bad thing because, under normal circumstances, I can get out and walk to the store. I can get out and go hang out with my friends. I can get out and go to the park. I can get out and, go watch a local sporting event or even do the wrestling shows that I was doing locally here. With everything being shut down here, I have spent, I think I was doing the math earlier today, out of the last 16 days, I've only left the apartment 2 days in those 16 days. And you feel like the walls closing in around you. You feel like the area that you inhabit is somehow becoming smaller, even though it's not actually becoming smaller. It just feels that way because it feels like everything's coming down on top of you. And that's one of the things that Jason mentioned with anxiety. That's something that anxiety does to you, is it makes you feel like everything is bigger than what it actually is, or the stuff that should be bigger doesn't mean as much as it should. What Jason was saying about having that disconnect there is something that I understand as well, because I helped my 70-year-old stepfather. And before everything happened, I would go over and see him twice, 3 times a month or so, just to make sure he had what he needed, make sure that he was able to go get his phone card so he could have his cell phone in case he needed to get a hold of me. He could go do his grocery shopping. He could get whatever else he needed for the apartment and everything. And then maybe once or twice a month, me and Christine would go over and take him out to dinner. So that way he had a chance to get out of his apartment for a little bit here. He's 70 years old. He's in that age range that they're suggesting that you not go anywhere unless absolutely imperative. And so that's leading to me taking on more of a role in like helping him with his grocery shopping and taking the stuff to him and picking up the stuff that he needs at the store and taking it to him so he doesn't have to leave. And that's more pressure on me throughout this time as well with my anxiety. It's not helping with everything. And I'm sure that there are a lot of other people out there, and I'm not trying to say this in order to garner sympathy, because I know there are a lot of other people that are doing the same thing that I'm doing right now and taking care of their elders and such. But it's very difficult for somebody like myself who hasn't had that responsibility before, and it's putting a lot of extra pressure on me as well. Brandon,
yeah,
your situation's a little bit more unique down there, given the fact that you're not really close to your immediate family.
Yeah.
You're with your girlfriend and her family.
Yeah.
Your fiance and her family.
Yeah, I mean, things have definitely been more chaotic here in the house because, everyone's staying home, for the vast majority of the day. So that's caused some turmoil. But outside of that, I've been, it's been kind of weird because on one hand, I'm before this started, I was doing the games for the high school, and that was getting me out of the house more and whatnot, and it was giving me something I like doing, so that was a good thing. But now, I started a new job which I can do at home, which gives me something to do during the day, which is a good thing, but it's also it also means I have less time to do things like with Tori and other things. So it's kind of a balancing act now with that. And then not having, sports and stuff. I mean, I still have wrestling, which is good that's still going on. But, outside of that, not having sports, it's definitely an odd feeling, and, it's just a weird time all in all.
Erik, you were mentioning before the last time we did a show that you were in the process of getting your business started when everything started happening there. And I know that that's probably slowed down your progress on getting the business started. Do you think it's putting extra pressure on you for your business in order to get it off the ground and help it get as successful as you can in order to maybe make up for lost time here? Like, what are your thoughts on everything there? And I know you have somebody else who is of an older age as well, living with your mother too. How's your mom handling everything?
She, with her being of an advanced age and also her being in the medical field for so long, 30 years as a registered nurse, almost 50 years as a nurse total. She's looking at everything, taking what she sees on the news from certain sources with a grain of salt, but normally what I would consider overkill, like taking Lysol spray on my mail, certain things like that, I would be like, I wouldn't always take those steps, but I understand and I don't complain when she mentions doing that because she's being very careful. She's seeing the statistics and she knows, even in my case, the worst could happen to me just as easily as it could happen to her. So I understand that.
Yeah, that's one thing. Oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
That's one thing that I've definitely noticed myself. I was never one to, overthink cleanliness. I just do the normal stuff. But now, my hands feel so dry because I've been washing them much more than I would normally. And then, I've been wearing gloves when I go out of the house, wearing a face mask when I go out of the house. So it's been a very weird thing.
Yeah,
correct.
Go ahead real quick.
I'm sorry, Eric, but that actually brought up something that I didn't ask earlier, but I wanted to ask Brandon here because out of the four of us, Brandon's the most immunocompromised out of the four of us.
To an extent, yes. I haven't really done much research in terms of if my disability impacts
CP, right?
Yeah. I don't know if it has any sort of impact. I'm not I'm susceptible to getting certain things, but that's more so as a result of allergies since I moved down here more than anything in regards to the CP.
But I would think that with your weakened immune system because of the cerebral palsy, that would put you at a greater risk of catching.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though. I don't know necessarily if I do have a weakened immune system, because I don't think that's not necessarily a direct symptom or a direct thing that comes with CP. But it certainly is possible, and I'm taking all the proper precautionary steps.
All right, I want to interject here real quick, just because Brandon brought something up, and I'm going to put on my intelligence and my, and especially since Eric brought it up, I'm going to touch on two things real quick because he said that, Mama Eric, is taking extra precautionary steps like Lysol in the mail, wiping stuff down. The fact that, a lot of people don't know this, and I'll share this. I'm sure that she won't care that I share this. My wife is super vigilant when it comes to fear. She stresses about a lot of things. This thing is really hard on her mentally. She does have a small compromised immune system. She does have high blood pressure and some upper respiratory issues. So that being said, the fear that I have is being in the medical field for so long, and Mama Watkins can, probably attest to this if you ever mentioned it, Eric. Being exposed to so much stuff, our immune systems are heightened.
Mm-hmm.
But in the fear of me is a lot of things are asymptomatic, meaning I can carry some and I not even know that it bothers me.
Mm-hmm.
Kinsey and Amber can get super sick, and I may just have a bellyache for a day or run a temperature for a day, and I'm done. Yeah. But going back to something that, I just want to touch on that. But going back to something Brandon said about wearing the gloves and stuff, and that this may catch me a lot of heat. If you're wearing the gloves properly, great. I commend you for it.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people do not know the proper use of gloves. Meaning,
one-time usage, and then you're supposed to take them off if it's
anytime you touch a new surface, you are to change your gloves. If not, only thing you're doing is cross-contaminating anything you come in contact with. I have a friend who I've known all my life is constantly posting pictures of her wearing a face mask, and she's got gloves on at the grocery store, and then she's got the same gloves on in her car, and she kind of got upset with me. I said, "You're doing nothing but spreading germs." She's like, "No, I've got gloves on," and I'm like, "No, you're cross-contaminating everything you come in contact with, because anytime you touch a new surface, you need a new pair of gloves. Therefore, you're not carrying the germs." And she talks about how much she cares about her son. I was like, look, using this as a teaching moment, because obviously you have an idea in your head that's not fully thought out. When you're touching all these different things, one thing, you might touch 10 things. The very first thing you touch might be contaminated. You touch 9 other things, you contaminate those 9 other things, so everything becomes contaminated. And that's what I think that people aren't understanding what's going on, is this thing that we're facing, and I'm going to go on a medical spiel here, it is not going to reduce because people are not taking the proper precautions. They're taking precautions, but they're not doing it properly. They're cross-contaminating a lot of things. Therefore, that's what's causing such a rapid spread of stuff. If you are using proper protocols, one, you're going to be wasting a lot of gloves that can go to medical personnel that does need them. Secondly, if you do continue to cross-contaminate, you're not going to see any growth in this vast number. It's not going to shrink. It's just going to continue to grow. And that's why I'm going to go on record and say this. You guys can quote me on this. Before anything gets better, you have to let life get back to normal, and you're going to see a second surge of this thing going on in our world, because there's going to be so many people that is going to be flocking together, and there's going to be so many germs spread that you're going to see a huge influx of things before you see the curve flatten.
This is the second wave in some countries.
And this has been my TED Talk, and I'm glad that you guys were a part of it.
Erik, you were telling us about things with Mama Watkins.
Yeah, and she always makes sure, proper protective coverings for my face and stuff, have everything, all my skin protected, wearing long pants, which sucks because naturally Florida, it's been 90 degrees off and on the past 2 weeks, so yay, but I do it because I know I go to a grocery stores. Not everybody practices social distancing. I'm running around looking weirder than I normally do, ducking and dodging to make sure I stay the 6 feet, and that's been quite of an adventure. But I know if I take these precautions, I can control what I can, so that way I have less of a risk, and she also has much less of a risk, because I'm the only one out of either of us that goes out. But on the flip side of that, business-wise, because primarily I'm a math tutor, as we know, a lot of schools have already closed down for the remainder of the year anything on campus. High schools, elementary schools, colleges are going to distance learning. The SATs have been canceled. AP exams are all going to be online, really for the first time, I would say ever, at least the first time I can remember. So getting my tutoring business, Rick's T&T LLC, shameless plug, getting that off the ground hasn't been bad, because I've got so many students for online sessions flocking towards me. That's how I was able to get the money together to file the LLC in the first place. That's how I've been able to get some of the money together and hopefully win this economic recovery check, because technically it's not a stimulus. That comes in, I can cover the rest of my bills. Okay, I have this stuff that I now can use that I've saved. I can get my notary. I can get my insurance. I can start making investments in the A7FL and Chula's Tacos and getting my touchscreen monitor and mini PCs. One that's going to be for podcasts, the other that's going to be for tutoring. Everybody wins. So I can get things going on in that regard, but I know I'm lucky enough to where I'm going to have customers and see this with business. But even then, until I transition to getting my own clients, I'm going to have to be working for tutoring companies like I currently do, which means I'm still going to be making less money, but at least I'm making something. For those, like in restaurants, like in all these businesses that have been declared non-essential and closed and employees furloughed, they're waiting on something. We don't know if or when it's going to get here. Hopefully when and not if. They're looking at this really to survive. I mean, you see the numbers. 13% unemployment. Millions of people filing for unemployment on a weekly basis. We haven't seen anything like this in decades. So I just say, while I'm good enough to where I've got something I can fall back on, everybody also take a breath, and especially if someone you know, check in and try to help out if you can those that don't. Because their business may not come back after this.
I just have one question for, I mean, if your mom or you have an idea too, but mostly to Jason because he mentioned it. You mentioned, you want to switch out gloves, but, you obviously don't want to be using up all your gloves in one fell swoop. What is your best suggestion to avoid, what would you suggest to do with that?
You want my honest opinion?
Yeah.
Don't worry about them. Wash your hands. Use hand sanitizer.
So just wash your hand and use hand sanitizer and just go out and grab it?
Yes. Because what not wearing gloves is just as productive as wearing gloves and cross-contamination. The only difference is if you're dabbing, if you just have one of those little dollar, you get them for $1, Bath and Body Works hand sanitizers.
Mm-hmm.
Good luck finding them now.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I'm just saying. I'm just using it as an example because that's just a little $1 hand sanitizers it just came to my mind, and I'm just sitting here looking at all Kinsey stuff through my office door. But if you're going to cross contaminate if you're wearing one set of gloves as opposed to no sets of gloves. So I would suggest, just if you have a small thing of hand sanitizer, a little dab of hand sanitizer, or a lot of people make fun of me because I do this, which I've done this even before this. When I go get gas, they have napkins. They have paper towels right there by the thing that washes you. I grab one of those, and that's how I use the gas handle. One, because I don't like getting gas on my hand, and two, I live in West Virginia, and I'm pretty sure there's some girls rubbing crotch critters on the gasoline thing. A good way, and this is something that actually you can go on YouTube and find this out, and it's very easy. Thing that if you can't find sanitizing wipes or hand sanitizer, you can go on YouTube and Google how to make your own.
Yeah, I've seen that already.
You could dilute a little bit of bleach. Don't use too much because it will eat your hands to shit. But you don't want it. And that's another thing. People are overusing hand sanitizer. Your body's built to have certain bacteria on it to help fight stuff. When using a lot of hand sanitizer, you also kill off the good bacteria with the bad bacteria. So just be precautious. If you're going to be touching a lot of things, a little dab of hand sanitizer. If you're doing something, and I mean, just have, I mean, this sounds really funny, and if you laugh at me, fine. Another thing that I do, how many you guys do laundry, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
You always have a mismatched sock or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes.
Use that. You just carry a mismatched sock that you found in your pocket. If you're using a face mask, if you've got a shirt or something that you can use that rather than taking these, because I see people that are like full out N95 mask, and I laugh at them because it's doing no good. I mean, I could speak on this because me and Liz has actually had a few talks, because her mother, she takes care of her mother, and I always check in on her and her mother, and and she's in one of the hardest hit places, which is New York, and there is no medical supplies for places. It's got so bad that they're begging people, paying nurses almost $200 an hour per diem to come work in hospitals. That's how bad it is in New York.
Mm-hmm.
Here in West Virginia, we have 436 cases confirmed as of yesterday. That is literally a raindrop in an ocean compared to what New York's going through.
Mm-hmm.
You even tell you have fewer cases in your entire state than I do just in my county.
Mm-hmm. I think it's the same here as well. I think it's more in this county as well.
So, but just real quick here, Ohio is 15 times West Virginia's. Ohio's up over 5,000 confirmed cases.
Yeah, but I mean, going back to what you asked, Brandon, one, be careful.
Yeah.
I mean, washing your hands. This is a disease that, simply washing your hands, practicing good hygiene. And it's sad that you have to tell people to practice proper hygiene that can curb this. And
remember, Jason, some of these same people have to be warned hot coffee is hot.
Well, also not to eat Tide Pods. But
thank you.
I will digress.
Now,
we won't get into that.
Here's my question: would a Tide Pod kill the coronavirus?
No.
I know that. I'm just
okay. We're currently at 523 confirmed cases in the entire state. Also,
still roughly the same as my county.
Now this is going to me get up on my soapbox a little bit, and I do apologize if I hurt anybody's feelings. I just don't give a fuck if I do. Don't buy into the hype. Do your own research. Look into the statistics yourself. Research.
Yes.
Don't take everything at face value, because a lot of things that I have found out personally is a lot of these quote unquote deaths everything is being lumped into a coronavirus, COVID-19 death, when COVID-19. actually it's not related. Had a good friend who just lost one of their parents to a massive stroke and heart attack. Come to find out, they was listed under COVID-19 as a COVID-19 death. No symptoms, no nothing.
Oh wow!
The hospital released it, and they were furious because this person is one of your far right people and conspiracy theorists. And when that happened, they were livid. And they made a huge deal about it because knowing what happened, because he passed away before the ambulance even got there, he was gone. And when they got, of course, you still have to transport to the hospital due to, they were still working. And they listed as a COVID-19 death. Don't buy into hype. We're all intelligent people, some more than others, some kind of struggle. But just be vigilant and do your own research. Don't believe everything you hear, and only believe nothing you hear and only half of what you see.
R0 infection rates, tests per million people. These are some of the numbers that you will really look into if you want to get an idea. And even don't so look at deaths, but look more at hospitalizations for that exact reason that you mentioned, Jason. That exact reason.
And also, everybody's saying there's a surging cases. You want to know why they're surging cases? There's more tests available.
Exactly.
And people have been saying, people have been saying that.
The more tests that you have available, the more it's the law of probability. The more you test something, the more it's probable you're going to have a positive reaction.
Yep.
So, so it's just a thing that, take care of yourselves, take care of your loved ones, ensure that you are doing proper hygiene, because that is key. And I don't care what anybody says. They're saying they don't know how to curve this. Wash your ass and wash your hands, and that will help flatten the curve. It's just like
stay 6 feet apart. Don't share hookah. Don't eat unfamiliar ass. Stay sick. Stay home if you're sick. The basics, people. The basics.
It's the fact that, and I want to say this, it's the fact that people, if anybody wants to get a good education on what's happening today, may I suggest to you, I don't really know the name of the book. I know the premise of it. I think it was 1984 is the book.
George Wells?
Yes. And it kind of depicts how media can manipulate and control a mass population.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
The mystery of truth.
And, that's not saying it coming from a conspiracy theorist, but history is doomed to repeat itself. If you can get people to buy into something, they believe it. It's like the
Spanish flu was even called the Spanish flu.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it didn't even originate in Spain.
Yeah, nope. There's a couple of things to say about this whole situation here. Now that I'll let you finish what you were saying there, Jason. One, if you're calling it the Chinese virus, you're an asshole.
Yep.
Shut the fuck up.
I call it the Chinese virus, and I am an asshole.
You are an asshole. Shut the fuck up. Two, if you're one of those idiots who's just throwing their used gloves on the ground outside of stores and parking lots or inside of lobbies and stuff.
Oh my God, people are doing that?
Too, and fuck yourself.
Wow,
yes.
People are dumb.
Just taking their gloves off and dropping them in the parking lots.
This is what I've been saying. An individual person can show a lot of signs of high levels of intelligence. You get people together in a group, you're talking about a set of dumb, panicky animals that are extremely hard to reason with.
Exactly. And like I said, everybody's drinking the Kool-Aid.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the problem. We've lost, and I mean, us four, we differ on a few things. We're similar on a few things.
Mm-hmm.
But we all have the ability to be able to reasonably have a discussion.
Mm-hmm.
We have that trait that where we can actually sit down, even if we disagree, we can have a discussion, see each other's viewpoint. The world as a whole and the masses of America as a whole has lost the ability to disagree. If it comes from any walk of life, a lot of people will believe everything they see, everything they hear, and we become a society that believes if it's on the internet, it's real. We have, but one thing that this thing has done, and I will say this in closing, it has brought people closer together. You do see people being more social, even if it's from a distance. You see them being more social with their families, myself included. I found out I've been married for 3 years and her favorite color is yellow. Never knew that before. That was a joke that went nowhere.
That was a really bad meme on Facebook.
Yeah.
Back when this first started.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I mean, no, seriously. I mean, there's stuff that me and Amber can sit down and watch a TV show together, and neither one of us be on our phone. And there's a bond again. Me and Kinsey can, talk about just random stuff. I can talk to, some of my neighbors. One of my neighbors currently has cancer. A few people here in the area made little bags and took and set by his mailbox, just to make sure that he knew that we cared enough to make sure that he had some basic needs being met and everything. So you're seeing people like being out and being, it's social distancing, but you're seeing people do stuff as families now. You see people I see it on my Facebook every so often when I check it, people taking hikes together, riding their bikes, being a family and not being glued to a television or a telephone.
One of the biggest things here, and we do need to start getting ready to put a kibosh on this. And for those of you who were hoping to get us to discuss some off-season NFL news, this discussion ended up going a lot more deeper and a lot more intricated than I originally anticipated. Therefore, I do not feel that it would be in good taste to try to turn this towards a football discussion. Therefore, we will come back with our post-season thoughts, our post-NFL season thoughts with regards to players changing teams and free agents being signed. And Erik mentioned the issues with CBA as well. We'll talk about all that next week when we do our draft preview. But I think the biggest thing to understand here, and I've said this before on the show, and I'm going to reiterate my point right now, is there's one thing that everybody in this world has in common: being human. And I think that at times we lose track of that. We lose track of who we are both as individuals and as a collective humanity. We get so caught up in our daily grind. We get so caught up in our, what's this and this person saying on Facebook and this person doing on Snapchat? And oh my God, I need to get this picture up for Instagram. No. What you need to do is you need to take care of yourself and those you care about. What you need to do is you need to be there for those you care about and to take care of yourself so that you can be there for those you care about. I'm not going to sit here and say I have all the answers. I have absolutely zero medical training. One of my best friends' sister is a doctor. It's as close as I get to the medical profession. Jason has actual EMT experience here, so he has a better understanding of this than probably myself and Brandon do. Brandon's probably got more medical experience given his condition. He's probably been around more medical facilities than I have in that regard.
Yeah.
Erik obviously mentioned earlier his mother was in the nursing field for almost 30 years.
Almost 50.
Well, with everything all considered, yes, almost 50 years.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Take everything you see online with a grain of salt. Do your own research, like Jason said. Find out what plan works for you, what plan works best for you, what plan works best for your family. If you want to subscribe to certain theories, that's your decision. People are going to agree with you. People are going to disagree with you, and that's okay because we're allowed to be different. That's what makes us human. Just remember that. Jason, any final thoughts?
Yeah, my final thoughts is this. If you have stayed with us this long, I do appreciate it, and hopefully you take what we've discussed here. And I know this is typically not our typical podcast. Everybody that, if we do have fans, they're used to hearing us joke around, give each other hell and everything. But I hope that this gave anybody that did stick around kind of glimpse into the human beings that we actually are. Yeah, we're all assholes, especially me. I'll be the first one to tell you that. But also, if any of the other three people on this podcast ever needed something, I would be one of the first people that would drop anything to help them. And that's because I care about them just like they're my own family. And with that being said, if you are sticking around, I would love for anybody to. I make this joke quite often when I do wrap-ups. Anybody that wants to shoot me a message on my Twitter, it's at turkeyglue822. If you do feel the walls coming in on, like Harry said, or you just need to vent about anything, feel free to hit me up. I mean, yeah, I do work, but if you do shoot me a message, especially at this time, because what people don't realize is all this going around, and hopefully this doesn't offend Harry in any way, but Harry spoke a little bit on it earlier. You need to check on some people, because whether you want to believe it or not, there are people out there struggling with this that do feel like their world's getting smaller and smaller, and they're at their wits' end and they don't know what to do. So if you have somebody that is dealing with depression or anxiety issues, reach out, check on them, make sure that they know that you're there for them, so their world isn't getting so small where they think they're alone.
Yeah, and real quick to Jason's point right there. I know I've talked to Jason a lot in the downtime in between doing shows here. I know that me and Brandon have talked a little bit as well. I know that me and Erik talk significantly. Me and Erik have actually taken to hanging out on Messenger and playing dominoes against each other to give each other company right now.
I may have to get in on that.
Unfortunately, it's 2-player, but when one of us is free, by all means, feel free. Jason, same goes for you if you want to learn how to play some fives dominoes. Jason mentioned another name earlier in the show, Liz Puglisi, who is up in one of the danger spots up in New York City. Liz is an absolute sweetheart of a human being. You may, when you're first meeting her, you may get that gruff New York exterior, but Liz is an absolute sweetheart. Liz has been there to talk to me through so many different circumstances over the course of these couple of years that we've known each other, and I would not give up her friendship for anything. Find yourself somebody like Liz that'll look out for you just as much as you want to look out for her.
I can attest to that from my interactions with her as well. And if we're getting to the time, and even our mayor in his daily briefings, he always ends it by, it's 7:00, call somebody. Text them, shoot them a message. He's not wrong. One of the few things I've agreed with them about through this, because I was reading a case a couple of weeks ago. A girl in her mid-20s over in the UK, she actually committed suicide for all of these reasons, because those walls were closing in. Just because and you have people who they seem okay, it never hurts to ask.
Erik, do you have any other final thoughts?
Listen to the scientists. Do research. Think critically. Because God knows that's exactly what we need right now. Science, bitch. Brought to you by Rick's ENT LLC. And I'm also going to throw this out there as one last plug. I never do this.
So,
Because this is like shill with a little bit of a twist. Hit me up on Facebook. Erik Watkins with a K. You should see a cartoon image of myself in a recliner, a glass of wine in one hand, and a Jaguars hat sitting around a pile of laundry. That's me. If you have anybody, or if you're trying to complete classes and stuff yourself, send me a message. I'm up and running for business. I know it's a tough time. My rates, especially now as this is going on, very flexible. I'm using this and what gifts, thankfully, that I have to help out. And if you are capable of doing something like this or even volunteering, do the same. Because people just need people right now. Not a whole bunch of talking heads on TV or all this and that. Yeah, you have, a little bit of booze, a little bit of weed, whatever you take. No judgment from me, but as all of the commercials and everybody says, this is one of those times when we really, as a human race, are all in this together.
Brandon.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say one thing, and then I have a quick question. We'll just go around the table to get everyone's reaction. Just everyone stay safe, adhere to the social distancing, make sure you're, cleaning yourself and keeping yourself hygienic, and just make sure that you're trying to get this under control so we can get back to normal as quickly as we possibly can. And the question I had for you guys was, what was your reaction? And, obviously not in a, not as much of a, direct moment for the world, but for us as sports fans, definitely. What was your reaction that night, that Wednesday night, and then the subsequent day when what I like to call the sports world stood still, when everything came crashing down? What were your thoughts?
I had two words, one of which had an expletive. And I think I actually said these two words inside of our group chat that we have over on Facebook as well. I believe the two words that I used were fucking surreal.
Mm-hmm. Erik?
The fuck? And then it turned to, well, this is inevitable. Then it turned to, uh-oh.
Mm-hmm. Jason?
I was numb. And I mean, that's the best way to describe it. I was totally numb because I didn't really understand what was going on and what the overreaction was, because that was my initial thought. It was overreaction. But then I had to take a step back and look and do further research and figure out where my honest priorities lie. Was I upset because I was losing out on sports, or was I upset because I had to look in the mirror and be an accountable human being?
Mm-hmm.
You see, that's actually kind of what I was just thinking too there. I think that the surrealism comes from the culture shock of having everything taken away. And then that right there, once the sports were taken away, once we lost exhibition baseball, the NBA season, the NHL season, and NFL training camps, once the live events ceased for professional wrestling and everything like that happened for us, that's when you started to pick up on the severity of everything going on around you.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say. Tori was actually at wrestling practice that night when Gobert got diagnosed with it, and then everything started. And I got an ESPN alert saying that the game was postponed, and I was like, okay, that's weird. And then as soon as I got back, I turned on ESPN, and they were reporting on it. And then that's when the severity of this really hit me, because at first I was thinking, oh, it's going to be like any of the other epidemics, or any of the other epidemics that we've gone through in the past 15, 20 years, SARS, Ebola, all of that yes, you hear about it, the news sensationalizes it, but it doesn't, for the most part, it doesn't really affect you on a day-to-day life. And then as soon as that first domino fell with the NBA and them saying that they were shutting everything down, I was like, this is the beginning of the end. I knew the next day. I woke up bright and early at 8 o'clock in the morning that Thursday, knowing that this is going to be a day that we will never forget, because everything was going to be shut down by the end of it. And sure enough, it was.
And it was weird for me because I had been keeping an eye on it since kind of things started, really January, February, and I was like, this is potentially not good. And one thing that I really spent more time in, the stock market, which, again, with my weird level of responsibility and hardcore adulting, I've started fully committing money and investing into the stock market. I have a small portfolio, which is kind of but what have you. I was like, oh, this is going to be a wreck.
Mm-hmm.
This will be bad, and it's not going to go away very, very quickly. And then that night, I happened to be tuning in, watching that NBA game, something I almost never do in the regular season. Then I heard the news all of a sudden started to come across the wire, and I was like, oh, shit. Then when they started, as the night went on, and in the next day, and then I started hearing a lot less when and a lot more if. And I would be surprised, and blah, blah, blah. The more it happened, the more it was sinking in, the more things were going. And I thought to myself, we're kind of screwed.
Mm-hmm.
Then when I looked at a lot of different charts and everything, and I'm like, some people reacted too late. This is already global, and people don't realize it yet.
Yeah.
And people started realizing it, but it was already done, and I'm like, it wasn't long after that I made my first trip to the grocery store.
Yeah. Probably one of the most surreal moments, especially for me, being a Big East fan, was watching the first half of that St. John's Butler game, and seeing them still playing, but at the same time, kind of knowing in the back of my head, the writing's on the wall. How long are they going to try to keep this up? And sure enough, it only lasted a half.
Yeah, it was the same thing, because for those of you, I was going back to Australia rules football, after everything is shut down, they said, all right, we're going to have the first round of the season. I was like, great, at least there's something. Going into halftime of that game, because I had watched that live, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, the CEO of the league is coming on at the half to discuss updates in a fast-paced and changing environment. I'm like, uh-oh. Then the commentator started talking. Then they mentioned, oh, some states are closing their borders. And I'm like, I spent the next 20 minutes thinking, am I even going to see the rest of this game?
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, I did, because the league CEO said, after round one, we're going to complete these games. Then we're going to shut it down for a while. A long while. So it's like, the more I saw things in the sweeping change, I thought, this is going to linger.
Yeah.
And keep lingering.
All right, let's get ready to go ahead and send this home here real quick. We were just having a little bit of a discussion inside of the group chat, and I'm going to bring that over here. Jason earlier brought up a novel by George Wells called 1984, which deals with the sensationalism of government overtaking people's lives and maybe people rushing to conclusions. George Wells has another novel that does much the same thing, except from a people perspective, with War of the Worlds and people's overreaction to a radio prank of an alleged alien invasion. Unless it's coming from a reputable source, unless it's coming from the CDC directly or a reputable medical agency, none of what you hear and half of what you see.
Mm-hmm.
To one of the comments that we talked about earlier, and this is a darker part of the show that we really don't get into very often. If you or anyone you know are struggling, 1-800-273-8255. It is the National Suicide Prevention Hotline number. Do not hesitate to call. Your life is worth living. And I say this as somebody who's been in that boat before. For Jason Teasley, Erik Watkins, and Brandon Biskobing, my name is Harry Broadhurst. You have been listening to The Kickoff. Damn right we're essential. A presentation of the W2M Network online at W2Mnet.com. In addition, you can find us on all of your favorite podcast services, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Podbean, Castbox, Spreaker. Hey, Brandon, guess what?
Spotify is here.
Check on those you care about, everybody. Now's not the time for me to call anybody any kind of name. Take care of yourselves. And thanks for listening to The Kickoff here on the W2M Network.